Hi guys and girls, Andy Rafael from eTeknix.com here, and today, as you can see, we're taking a look at the BitFenix Shinobi. So what we're going to do is going to show you around the box, and you can see exactly what's actually included on there. Take it out, you can have a little look at it, and we'll try and get sort of up close and personal with it, and you can see exactly what this case is about. Just starting off, really, BitFenix. Some people may have heard of them, some people may not have. BitFenix are relatively new to the market, only sort of the past year or so, and so far their product portfolio isn't massive, but what they've actually created so far is still, you know, quite extensive. Their products are sort of considered quite special in terms of the modification market, that kind of thing. They do things a little bit differently to other manufacturers out there, which is always a good thing. Sort of break the mould, do something a little bit different to the competitors. So front of the box, we can see the actual box itself is just like a normal cardboard box. Massive BitFenix logo up here, and it tells you whether you've got the Shinobi or the Shinobi window. So us, for instance, we've got the Shinobi window, and you can also find more details on BitFenix.com. If we just sort of move this around, so you can see exactly what's on the other side. You get a sort of silhouetted view of what the case looks like, and then it tells you about the Shinobi window and the Shinobi, the full sort of specifications, dimensions, what it's made out of, the materials, the colour, what motherboards it accepts, mini ITX, micro ATX and ATX, so three different types of motherboard supported there. Just tells you really sort of how many drive bays. You've got 3 5¼ inch drive bays, you've got 8 3.5 inch drive bays, one of them being external using a 5.25 inch adapter. Then you've got one 2.5 inch drive bay using a 5.25 inch adapter. So it's all sort of versatile. Nothing is as it seems. Fan wise, it has got some fans included. You've got 2 120mm fans and one more space for it. One is actually included. One 120mm fan at the back, or one 92mm fan. The 120 once again is included. You've got an optional 120mm side panel fan that you can get, and then also you can fit 2 140mm fans or 2 120mm fans on the top, and one 120mm on the bottom. So yeah, you get 2 fans included. The 2 sort of 120mm, one at the front, one at the back, but you can get a lot more. You can just change it up. And then it also talks about it has 7 PCI slots, and so forth. So turn it around again. You can see it's called the Shinobi. Very nice name. Some of the other ones in BitFenix's product range, you've got the Colossus, and you've also got the Survivor, and then obviously variations of him. So Colossus Venom Edition, Colossus Window White, and so forth. So on here it does show that you can get it with a window, which is the version we've got, and also without a window. It has the BitFenix soft touch surface treatment, efficient cooling, should have with the amount of fans that you can fit in this bad boy, a tool-free design, which is always nice, and maximum expansion as well. So it does sort of seem really versatile in what it does and what comes included to start with. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the product, the case, out of the box and show you exactly what it's about and whether we like it or not. Okay, so we've taken it all out of the box, and as you expect, it has a bag over it and the usual polystyrene blocks. So nothing sort of too spectacular there. Because it has got a window, they have protected it with this as well, which we can take off of there, and that just protects the window from getting scratched, that kind of thing, when it's in transit. Generally with cases, you do get sort of accessories supplied with it, and they're normally sitting comfortably inside, as we can see. So we get the Shinobi quick installation guide, and this just talks through the Shinobi or the Shinobi window, what comes included, how to install your various drives, front fan installation, bottom fan, side fan, rear fan, dust filters, and all the other fans on there. So you get that included. Any other little added extras that I can get to? Not until I've taken the side off. So yeah, we'll take the side off and we'll have a look. So first though, let's turn it around to here, and you can see the front of it. Front of it, I've got to admit, does look quite snazzy. Not what I expected. Where we've looked at other BitFenix products in the past, they're very sort of gaming orientated, overclocking sort of orientated. They're sort of, you know, streetwise and quite. They've got a very unique design that they just look very sort of gadgety, gimmicky in a way. Probably using the wrong words here, but this just looks completely different. This looks professional. I'm not saying the other ones don't look professional, but this has just got sort of a smart office style look to it. Whereas the likes of the Colossus and the Survivor, they look very sort of LAN party-ish, that kind of thing. So it's the sort of thing you take into the LAN party. This is the sort of thing you take into your office. Don't know how many people take computers into their offices, but hopefully you're getting at what I actually mean there. So it's got the rubber sort of rugged feel on it that we actually saw on the Survivor. The Survivor had sort of top and bottom bits all rubber, and this has got the same thing. It's black, but looking at the actual colour, I don't know whether you can pick it up on the camera, but it's got a sort of like a blue tinge to it. It might be because of the rubber, but yeah, it's like a velvety sort of texture. It's really, really nice. And we've got the BitFenix logo in the middle as well in sort of a silver cutout. You can see the expansion bays up here, which are all rubber as well, and we can see there's ventilation all the way down these sides. Now, turning this around, we can see it's also got the rubber going along here and also along here, and then we've got this normal sort of aluminium side panel, no window on this side. But turning it around, we can see on this side it's got very much the same, but it has got this window with the optional space for a fan here, which is cut out. And the window is sort of a flimsy, sort of perspex plastic type material, which is good. Obviously, if you're going to add glass in there, we've seen some cases that have got glass windows, and what they actually do is make the case a lot heavier. And this, as you can see, it's relatively light. It's not you know, like a feather, but it's not massively heavy. You can see exactly where that's sort of riveted on from here. We will sort of take the side panel off and have a look, but like I said, you can put an optional fan on there. So now taking a look at the back, we can see that it does come with an included fan here. And so we've got these 7 expansion bays. That's where your I/O panel would go. It's got the same sort of design with most cases these days. Power supply goes down the bottom, and you can also see there's 2 pass-through tubes here for water cooling, and just above it and below it are some ventilation holes as well. The side panels are all screwed on by thumb screws, which is always handy. I'm not a big fan of breaking out sort of the toolkit when I want to take things apart, so it's nice just being able to talk to you guys and sort of take it off while I'm here instead of actually sort of focusing on what I'm doing. But this can be swapped out for a smaller fan. As you can see, we have got 4 holes sort of further in. So I'm just going to move them thumb screws over there, tilt this back round, and we can take this side panel off. Now, I will say one thing with BitFenix cases: whenever I've taken the sides off of them, they've always felt very solid and quite stiff. So hopefully over time it sort of loosens up. But you'd moan if it was flimsy and you know, just sort of fell off every so often. So in a way it's nice, but some people may think that obviously it hasn't been engineered properly, but it is. It's just very stiff, and over time it should sort of, you know, clear up. So inside, as I said, there will be some more little added accessories, which are cable tied into the drive bays, and it's a very light white box. And in here, you don't exactly get a lot. It's just this bag. I'm not quite sure why they used a box to put the whole bag in. But in there we have some feet. Yeah, some feet that you can stick onto the bottom, and there's also some cable ties, and also a bag full of sort of screws, fixtures, fittings for your power supply and mounting things and so forth. Because the power supply, you are going to have to screw in. If you've got thumb screws, I advise using them. Well, it depends. With us, because we're constantly taking parts in and out of cases, there's no real point in us screwing things down. It's just easier for us to put a power supply in there and just use the thumb screws. Now, looking at the power supply sort of area, if I zoom you guys in a little bit, Right, now that I've zoomed you in, I just need to actually move you down so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So let's start at the bottom and work our way up. Power supply wise, because I'm already talking about it, I might as well carry on talking about it. You can actually fit exceedingly large power supplies in here. You can see we've got sort of all this room to play with, so unless you're going to fill all this side up with drives, you are going to be able to fit quite big power supplies in. And even if you have got a drive in there, I still reckon that even some of the biggest power supplies, it's going to take up that much room. You're still going to have a lot of room for your hard drives, SSDs, storage devices, that kind of thing anyway. So we use Thermaltake tough power supplies generally most of the time, and I can tell you now the 1350 watt will come to about there. The fan will come down pushing onto here, and there is a removable dust filter. If I just sort of turn this over, you can see on the bottom and we've got a dust filter here and another one here, and as I said, with the accessories that come included, it has got the rubberized feet which just stick on here with the adhesive, and there's 4 actually come included. These dust filters simply just sort of fold together and come out, so you can clean them, dust them off and so forth. So moving over to the actual drive bays, you can see that it's got quite a few indeed. There's actually 8, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 drive bays in total, and it's got a BitFenix locking mechanism on it. So in the lock position, you can just unlock it and take it off, which is well, it's very, very simple, to be honest. It's, you can look at the mechanism on it. It's so simple. I'm quite astounded by how simple that is. I've seen cases before that have used locking mechanisms like this and it just hasn't worked. Whereas this, how much simpler can you get? It just seems to go on and off effortlessly. Whereas other ones you have to line up the pins and then line up the middle bit on the hole, and it's just a nightmare to say the least. So let me zoom out a little bit so you can see my lovely face again. Just going to tilt this round a little bit and you should be able to see. May have to zoom you in again and try and get the right angle on this, but you can see that there is a fan in there. There we go. So you can see it has got a fan just in there, and that's a BitFenix branded fan, much like the one that we saw on the back. And that's just basically going to generate some airflow from the front of the case, pushing along through the contents of the case and then out the exhaust, which is just here. And quite a nice little design that it's got. Looking at the optical drive bays, I'm going to zoom you in again, and I am just going to have to tilt you up a bit so you can sort of see what I can see. There we go, perfect. Same sort of thing really, it's got a locking mechanism which just pushes up and opens, and it's that simple. So once you've taken one of the drive bay covers off, you can slide your drive in and push up and out, and the whole thing can actually come off if you really want it to, but there is really no need to do so. Generally you'll find that it's quite simple. I'm just going to lock that back into place. There we go. So it is literally sort of opening and closing, and nothing really more to it. It's the same on this one. You can just push it in like that. So it's so simple. I just love what BitFenix have done here. They've made what other manufacturers have made quite complicated, they've done quite simply. And there are actually sort of 2 prongs on here which will go into your CD drive, DVD drive, where generally you'd sort of put some mounting screws in. This is just going to prong into it and click into place. Simple. Just going to zoom you out again so we can have a look at the main sort of area of this case. So if I move this back, you can see the whole sort of colour scheme goes on the inside of the case. It's all black, and you can see exactly where your motherboard would go. And like I said, it does accept mini ITX, micro ATX and ATX power supplies. And you can see all the areas for the motherboard stand-ups, which if we actually look closely, we can see that they all have numbers on there, and there's a little guide here which just tells us, depending on what type of motherboard you're using, as to what corresponding holes you'd actually put your standoffs into. So if we are using ATX, we're going to be using A1 to A9, Flex ATX, F1, F6, Mini ITX, M1, M8, and they are all labelled. Like this one here is A5, M4, F5, B4, so that's obviously various different boards because of where it is, but the ones that are further down are purely going to be for ATX, whereas the ones further in, ATX and Micro ATX, and the ones further in from that, they're going to be sort of the whole selection of boards, depending on the size of the board, of course. So that's pretty much all there is to say about the motherboard tray, apart from it has got sort of holes for your cable tidying. As you can see, there are a couple of cables that come included for your HD audio and AC97. You've also got one for your USB, and then you've got another one for USB as well. So all your relevant cables for the front panel connectors, which we'll show you, are there, and then there's also some more for your front panel power, LED, reset switch, that kind of thing. Fan wise, as you know, it has got a fan at the front and one at the back as well, and the one at the front has got a header down here, 3-pin, and then the one at the back has got a 3-pin as well. So no PWM, but they should be fairly silent because they are running on 3-pin anyway. And they're sort of, the cable's actually quite nice that it comes with it. It comes with a black cable, so everything in here, barring this lovely multicoloured rainbow from the AC97 header, is black. So they have really sort of thought about the whole colour scheme behind it all. There is also an area here for changing your backplate if you are like us and you do occasionally use a case and you need to swap it out for different coolers, that kind of thing. You may need to have to change the backplate, which is just a matter of taking off the other side panel with the thumb screws, taking that off, and you can see once the motherboard's in place, you can see that it's easy to just sort of, you know, get your screwdriver out, take the back plate off of the motherboard, reapply another one, and then you can go back round to the other side to fit the cooler. So nice and simple really. In regards to cable management, you can see how tidy it is, and there is quite a lot of room here. This is our remote to stop and start and zoom and everything on the camcorder, and it sort of fits in there quite nicely, and it's quite thick, so it gives you an idea really. And you can also see the locking mechanisms on this side for the drives, so they can just come off. Obviously you don't have to do both sides, but it is advisable if you're using mechanical hard drives, because of the vibration, you don't want it sitting in your case slanted. SSDs though, I can't see any problem with just doing the locking mechanism on the other side. For CD drives, you haven't got any mechanism here. It really isn't needed because it has sort of ledge in there, so it will actually sit in place and won't move about. So here's the cables coming down from the front panel connectors, and you can see that even them alone is quite sort of nicely cable managed. So I reckon if you had a power supply in here, most people are using modular these days, you can sort of hide all your cables through here and through here, up through here for your main power. You may even be able to squeeze some ones up here and up here for your 8-pin connector for your motherboard, and then your graphics card and everything coming through here for the PCI Express. And you've got to admit that it does look very, very nice. Speaking of the cables that are here going to the front panel connectors, I just want to show you exactly what front panel connectors this has got, and also what's included on the top. So I'm just going to sort of tilt this down onto its front, and then we're going to zoom you in again. Straight away, before I actually look at the front panel connectors, I want to show you where the optional fans go at the top. So you can see that it has this grill here, and it also has the ventilation holes coming down here that we saw on the front. They also sort of stem from the back of the case, come down and then round onto the front. So you can see there's quite a lot of ventilation space here as well, and if you want you can remove this so you can clean it up and so forth. And then inside there's actually a honeycomb grill as to where you'd actually mount your fans and whatnot. So I'm just going to look down now at the front panel connectors. So zooming in, we can see that we have pretty much the standard. We've got a power button here, reset button, microphone port, headphone port. There's two LEDs there as well, obviously for your power and hard drive activity. And then there's 4 USB ports. Now these USB ports are USB 2.0, they're not 3.0, which is a real shame. It would have been nice to see USB 3.0 on there, but alas, there is no USB 3. But it is nice to not see FireWire. I'm still not quite sure, but a lot of case manufacturers are sort of putting in 2 or 3 USB and then a FireWire. No one uses it anymore, and I'm glad BitFenix have taken note of that, because they do make cases with their consumers' best interests at heart. So they get a lot of information from their consumer and sort of take it, you know, as it comes, saying, you know, we don't want FireWire, so they haven't put it in there, which is nice. So what we're going to do now is we're going to build a system into this case using a Gigabyte Intel P67 UD7. That's going to go into this case. You can see what the cable management's like when our power supply and everything's in there, and we can take it from there. So I'll see you in a minute when this thing is all built up. Okay, so guys, we're back and we've built everything up. So let's basically just give you a quick sort of look at how it looks when everything's installed with my fantastic cable tidying skills. I'm not the best, but this case has made me look like a pro. Purely because this case is really fantastic for cable tidying. It's actually made me look like I could do it professionally. So kudos to BitFenix for that. So looking at the front firstly, now that we have a DVD drive in there, you can see, here it is. I'm just going to zoom in so you can see the colour difference, because I was saying earlier that the case has sort of a slight bluey tinge to it. So you can see this is black, and I don't know, maybe I'm colourblind, but it is a different sort of colour. Maybe it's because it's rubber. But you can see it all slots in very nicely, and it was very, very easy to slot in. It was just on this side there was the installation bracket, and then on this side as well. And it's just the 2 pins that sort of go in. Nice and simple. Turning this around, we can see the window, and we get a nice view of my 1200 watt cable management thermaltate power supply there, Radeon 6950, which fit absolutely fine, and a nice sort of medium sized Cooler Master cooler. Turning this around, we can see the I/O panel. There's the fan that already comes pre-installed. Our 6950 from HIS is in there, and then the power supply is sitting nice and comfortably at the bottom. No problem at all really. If I turn this back round, what I'm going to do now is just undo the side panel, cable tie, undo the other one, and then you'll be able to see how it looks at my fantastic cable tidying skills. So there you go. What do you think of that? There is something I actually missed though, and that's the graphics cards ones, but no real problem there. On the actual written review I will install them in there, and it's not really going to make too much of a difference. It's just going to be 2 more cables coming down here. In fact, I will add them in now. Bear with me. So I've got my PCI Express connectors, and this also gives you a good chance to see sort of how the cable tidying is done. So you can see that the Tough Power 1200 watt does fit in quite nicely as well. It's just below the sort of motherboard headers, USB headers, but you could actually put quite a large one in. You can see where the hard drive actually comes out. You've still got a good 2–2.5 inches in between where the power supply ends and the hard drives would actually start. So no real problem there at all. We've also got some nice cable tidying going on up here in regards to the CD drive. We are using right angled SATA cables as well in places, and they're nicely hidden as well. One thing I really actually like about the cable tidying on this case is there is a hole, ever so tiny, but it sits up the top, and we managed to get the front audio connector through there as well, and also the 8-pin power connector for your motherboard, so that went in ever so nicely as well. What I'll actually do is show you exactly where that space is by undoing up this side, which I tightened a little bit too much, so I'm going to have to break out the screwdriver. I know I said it's thumbless and toolless and whatever else you want to call it, but I tightened them up a little bit too far, and now I can't get them back open. But just undo them now. And this is where all the cables go everywhere. That's not too bad. So from this side you can see the cable management that's actually gone on. Not a massive amount of cables for this system, P67, and it's just literally your 24 pin, your 8 pin, and then we've got the graphics card ones which I'm going to put in now just to keep everyone satisfied. So it's just a matter of swinging it around. We can poke these through here. Like so. Plug these into the power supply. Like so. Still nice, neat, tidy. And then come back round to this side and slot them in up here. So some people may think that cable tidying takes a long time. It really doesn't. It's quite simple really. And if you get into good practice with it, no problem at all. So there's one. There's the other. We're just going to hook them over the top. Like so. And just flatten them back down so they push back through to the other side. And you can see it's still relatively sort of tidy, and quite a good job that we did there. SATA cables over here, and this is where the front panel audio connector goes through, and also the 8-pin power connector. So like I said, there's a tiny little hole through here that the 8-pin just barely managed to squeeze through, but where it has squeezed through, it's made everything up here actually look, if I zoom in so you can have a look, you can see that it does look rather tidy around the CPU socket area. So I think I've done a really good job there. I've kept the fan over here cable tied and the one at the front. So this fan here is still got the cable tie on it. The one at the front I've sort of let some slack off so we can plug it in. But the fan connector that I've actually used is up here. And because I've used that one, it has got a nice bit of slack on it and has allowed us to cable tie. So by zooming back out, what I'm actually going to do now is let you listen to the fans. So I'm going to plug this beast of a power supply in. And you can see straight away that we have power on the motherboard. So at least I built it correctly, that's good. So now what I'm actually going to do is turn it on, and I know you can probably hear screaming kids because that's what I can hear right now. There are screaming kids outside in the garden, but you should hopefully be able to, well, hopefully not, hear the fans of this system. Bearing in mind there is a fan in the power supply. 6950 is not the most quiet fan in the world, but this Cooling Master is on a 4-pin anyway, so that should be okay as well. So I'm just going to turn it on now. That, if you can hear it, is the graphics card spinning up, and then it comes back down and back up again. But now it's just sitting idly, and you should be able to hear that the fans are not really making mass amounts of noise. It's sort of, you know, doable, copable with. I could cope with that system being that noisy quite easily. And bearing in mind we've got both sides off, so there's no side on the front or the back. So hopefully that gives you an idea as to sort of what this sounds like. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to bring the tripod over and the camcorder over so you can see the lights on the top. So there's your little light on the top. So if we just reset it again. So you've got your little light there. So I turned it off. We just bring it back down. And we're actually getting a bit closer to the fan, so you should be able to possibly hear any noise. So we've got this fan at the back, exhausting air out of here. It's pushing a nice comfortable amount of air, nothing too over the top. And then obviously we've got the fan down here as well, which is going to be blowing cool air in over to the hard drive and then flowing up and back out the back. So as you can hear, it's nothing sort of too noisy. It's quite quiet in my opinion. I'm just going to put the tripod and the camcorder back down so I can go and sit back down. So overall you can hear it is fairly quiet. I'm just going to turn it off now though. And obviously if we did decide to put the side back on, like so, you can see that actually once it's turned on, you can see a few little lights and bits and bobs in there. So this is the perfect case just to have a little bit of light. I'm not a keen fan on sort of, you know, over the top lighting and things like that, but this would be nice with just a little bit of light. At the moment we can see the debug LED and a few LEDs sort of scattered all over, but if you did have something that had a few little lights on it, you know, I reckon it would look quite swish, especially with sort of the look of the front of it. It does look sort of extremely nice, and it does look very professional looking. Maybe a nice little touch would have been to have this light up like we've seen on other BitFenix cases, but obviously that's the market that they wanted to go against with this case. So I like it, to be honest. I do think it's a little bit different to some of the cases out there on the market. It's very, very different from the other products that BitFenix have actually made compared to the Colossus and the Survivor. It's very much a unique case. I love the rubberized material that BitFenix use on this case, because if you're like me, when you have got a case going, it's sitting on the floor, I'm forever knocking and bashing into it with my swivel chair, because it's on wheels. I'll sort of move from one end of the room to the other to do this filming, to go back onto the main computer system, and I'll find that as I sort of swing over there, right into the side, so you imagine bashing that, obviously you're going to normally dent a case, but with this being rubber, no fear of that at all. So let me know what you think by commenting on the video if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this on eTeknix, register and let us know in the forums, and by commenting on this exactly what you think of this case. Personally, I think it's great, and we have got a written review ready to go up on eTeknix. If you are watching this on YouTube, you can check the description in the bottom of this video. Be sure to check out all the other stuff that we're doing at eTeknix. We will be giving away 3 gaming rigs in the next couple of months. We're going to be doing some build logs and then sort of moving on to doing some gaming rigs. And I will tell you now that one of the gaming rigs is going to be in this case. So if you do like this case, that is definitely something to look out for. www.eteknix.com, you can see it just below in the corner. Head over to there, because you could win this case with a fantastic motherboard, Antec power supply, Antec CPU cooler, and lots of other little goodies. It's going to be sort of a budget gamer rig, this system, and we're also going to have sort of the mainstream gamer rigs and the extreme as well. We're not quite sure how we're going to do it, but it's likely that this is either going to be the budget or the mainstream gamer rig. So if you are keen on this, be sure to check that out. Let me know, like I say, what you think of this case, whether you'd go out and buy it, and remember to comment, like, subscribe, all them other bits and bobs that you like to do on YouTube, and until next time, see you later.